So today I'm going to be talking about the legal and ethical considerations of using artificial intelligence in polar research. I'm based at the Arctic Institute of North America at the University of Calgary. So I'm going to start just with a brief introduction, and then I'm going to go through disclosure obligations when using artificial intelligence, attribution requirements, personal accountability when using AI, data security and safety, ways to enhance research security with artificial intelligence, human rights and ethical considerations, a list of current AI regulations around the world, applicable polar research regulations and agencies, and other resources. So just for an introduction, legal considerations may apply to artificial intelligence, machine learning, and large language models used in polar research. Some examples include pattern recognition, image recognition, data analytics, generative artificial intelligence, intelligent searches, literature review, grant application evaluations, and other activities that are similar. And regulations can vary depending on country and jurisdiction, but the key principles are the same and focus on data protection, safety, and transparency. So when you're using artificial intelligence, you need to disclose its use in your research. Disclosure obligations extend to funding agencies, scientific journals, research publications, blog posts, oral presentations, data repositories, conferences, public websites, and really anywhere else where you share data, share your research. When you're using AI, you need to verify any information that you present as facts. You need to make sure that you're not using copyrighted information inadvertently, and that can happen if you're getting data from like large language models. You need to make sure that quotations are attributed to the right person, have the correct citations, verify all mathematical computations and machine learning algorithms, and also check any synthetically generated data. So disclosure is critical to avoid plagiarism and respect intellectual property laws. So here are just some disclosure examples. It's from the best practices for generative AI in research. So there's really three kinds. You can have something like the following content was generated entirely by an AI-based system based on specific requests asked of the AI, or the following content was generated by me with the assistance of AI. And these days, it's also important just to mention if you haven't used AI at all. So you could also say the following content was generated entirely by me without assistance of AI. If you use artificial intelligence to assist, you need to provide proper attribution to your sources. So if you use the output of generative AI tools, make sure to mention that in your references. Never rely on AI-generated content alone. Always verify the source of the material yourself. If you're unsure who to credit, you can credit the AI tool and the original author of information. And you can also take advantages of new tools like Google's SynthID that will put a watermark on artificial intelligence generated content, and it can help users detect deep fakes. So you can tell the difference between AI generated content and non-AI generated content. When you are using AI, you should always be doing proper citations. These are some examples from Brown University with the MLA, APA, and Chicago styles. And the key to all of these is to include the name of the tool that you're using, the large language model, the URL of the tool, and the date that the data was generated. So for data security and safety, you do not want to include personal information when you're training your models. You want to ensure that all training data is stored securely to prevent unauthorized or malicious changes. Otherwise, you can have data poisoning issues. You can also have adversarial attackers from introducing changes to your data sets. So a study just released earlier this month found that as few as 250 malicious documents can produce vulnerabilities in large language models. So this can be especially important for climate research since there's so much false climate data out there. So you need to make sure that the models you're using haven't been influenced improperly. You also want to be mindful of model inversion. That means that competitors may be able to reverse engineer your code to reconstruct training data. You want to thoroughly test models to ensure they're not susceptible to privacy leakage, because models can unintentionally reveal personal training data. You want to ensure that your researchers follow your AI policies to prevent shadow AI. So your researchers should not be using AI without your authorization or knowledge. And you also want to ensure that you're always logging to the correct accounts when you're using AI systems and regularly monitoring your AI environment. So AI also has several advantages. When you're doing your research, it's good at malware detection. So deep learning models can detect unusual patterns in the data. You can also detect intrusion. So AI can detect unauthorized use of systems. It can perform automatic auditing, which can assist with compliance and research regulations. Predictive analytics, which means that it can learn from previous breaches and predict new ones. Federated learning allows multiple institutions to train machine learning models while preserving data through decentralized storage. And synthetic data generation. So used properly, AI can create realistic data sets without violating personal privacy. So these are just some notes on personal accountability when you're using AI. Even if you're using AI, you're still fully responsible for everything. So again, you should have transparent disclosure and attribution. You should verify all AI-generated content yourself. You should document AI-generated data, like in particular, the synthetic data must be marked. You want to focus on ethics and equity. So you want to proactively ensure that AI results are beneficial to all segments of society without any bias. And you should be continuously monitoring and getting public engagement, making sure that you're constantly evaluating AI to make sure that it's being used properly. There's also various human rights considerations. So it's always a good idea to include human rights experts to evaluate your use of AI throughout your research project. You want to ensure that any personal data is protected and not accidentally released, as was mentioned previously. When you're selecting third-party AI tools, you should ensure that the tools comply with human rights principles and also be aware of the black box problem. That means that even if the input data is understood and the output data makes sense, it's not always easy to understand how the model came to its conclusions. So it can be difficult to trust results. You also want to prevent bias and ensure that your models are not trained with data that contributes to gender inequality or discrimination. So you've got to be aware that communities like LGBTQ with fluid identities do not fit into algorithmic boxes of artificial intelligence. That just means that the training data that you have might be biased and not include all sides of an issue. You also want to be aware of potential misuse of artificial intelligence, for example, criminal applications, and also be aware that running ML and AI models uses vast amounts of energy, and it's not always environmentally friendly. Currently, about 1.3% of the whole energy consumed in the world is used by AI, and that's only going to increase. So this is a chart from an article in Science Direct, and it's a good summary of various human rights issues. So everything from disappearing jobs and lack of quality data, all the way to like using AI for military use, criminal use, without consent, all those kind of things. So it's a nice little summary if you want to have a look at that. And when you are developing your own AI practices, this is kind of a good checkmark of resources that you can use here. And again, that's from a Science Direct article. So there's various regulations all around the world right now. A lot of regulations are being developed even just this year. The definition of artificial intelligence may vary across countries, so that's something to be aware of. And a single country may also have multiple definitions. example, in the US, there's US state and federal regulations may be different. With all the regulations, there's always a balance between fostering innovation and managing risk. And since polar research is international, researchers need to be aware of regulations in multiple jurisdictions. So these are some of the factors that influence AI and data governance. AI regulations may be focused on a combination of preventing risk and fundamental principles of fostering innovation. What's interesting is AI regulations also address many of the same challenges as data governance and privacy regulations. So there's a recent link to a recent blog post here that makes a good case for handling data and AI together in a single framework. In any case, the regulations need to be flexible and adaptable to rapid advancements. And when considering AI regulations for polar research, scientists need to be aware of data management, governance, AI legislation, and frameworks. One of the main challenges is defining what artificial intelligence even is and determining the components of your research that are affected by AI. And this is just, again, a chart from this article that kind of shows how AI and data management fit together. So the current state of regulations, things are rapidly developing all over the world. In the United States right now, they recently revoked President Biden's executive order and replaced it with America's AI Action Plan. So right now in the US, they're less concerned with risk and more focused on incentivizing business. Brazil also has its own framework. They're adopting a risk-based approach and focusing on fundamental human rights. And they also applied their older legislation, like the 2018 General Data Protection Law. Australia does not yet have any formal AI regulations, although they are developing them at the moment. There are several documents, though, that they do have on AI ethics, voluntary AI standards, and previous regulations, again, like the Privacy Act, can apply. China just introduced labeling rules, so AI-generated content in China must be labeled. And they also have standards for generative artificial intelligence, securities for generative artificial intelligence and training data, and security requirements. Japan just recently passed innovation focused on AI governance. The European Union is actually more focused on strict rules for high-risk systems. They're focused on human rights and data privacy. They still want to safely foster innovation, and a lot of these laws will be going into effect in August 2026. And right now, existing legislation like GDPR applies. In Canada, we've got a proposed bill that's currently on hold. It aims to regulate AI using risk-based principles again, and consists of an oversight body and penalties. There's also various polar research regulations and agencies. The Canadian High Arctic Research Act is aimed at advancing knowledge and promoting R&D. With these mandates, the use of AI is encouraged in Canada. For Antarctica, regulations under the Antarctic Treaty System apply. The US use of AI is only permitted if it does not harm the environment and necessary permits are obtained. Technology-specific rules also apply. For example, drones that are guided by AI are subject to the Antarctic Treaty Consultative Parties. In Northern Europe, there's national hubs that are promoting the use of AI, and many of these activities are relevant to Arctic research. Areas like Greenland are exploring sustainable AI, and actually with a cold climate all year, Greenland is actually an excellent place for data centers, so they're exploring that right now. The United States is rolling back AI regulations federally, but individual states are developing their own regulations. So right now, Alaska is currently drafting legislation. I believe Colorado is as well. That may have an impact on Arctic research. And these are just some other resources that you can look at if you want to learn more. There's a global AI and policy tracker that tracks artificial intelligence legislation developments in a variety of jurisdictions. The Global AI Ethics and Governance Observatory, it again provides global resources for the ethical use of AI. There's ISO standards being developed right now. 42001 is the world's first AI management system, and it provides guidance on the responsible use of AI in organization. There's the Worldwide AI Ethics. This is a review of 200 guidelines and recommendations for AI governance, and the EUI guidelines for the responsible use of artificial intelligence. And these are general principles for university researchers developed by the European University Institute. And that's all I have. So if there are any questions.
Thanks, Manush. Any questions from the audience?
Thank you. This is Mark Parsons, CodeAIDA. Thanks for a sort of whirlwind overview. Just a request, could you put your slides in the shared drive? Because you got lots of references in there that would be useful.
Yeah, it's in there right now.
Oh, okay. I'll look again. I didn't find it. All right, thanks.
Yeah.
Any other questions from the audience? No. Amazing. Well, thanks so much, Manush. We'll give you another round of applause.